Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. Do you still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few questions? This story does not add up.
But the thing is, they're all socialists. They're globalists. They're socialists. And there's something else that is common about the Antifa people, the Democrat left, that he points out in his article here, a serial killer called socialism. He says the classic socialist tactic of eliminating one's adversaries, no matter the price, is a common and repeated one. They do it constantly, he said. And that's what we see. You can't handle your opponents? Well, you just eliminate them. You can eliminate them by banning them in social media. You can eliminate them by banning their websites, by banning their commerce, by shutting their businesses down, by beating them down in the streets if you're Antifa. This is not the America we want. These people don't stand for freedom or liberty in any way, shape, or form. They are serial killers obeying a cult of death called socialism and Marxism. And we need to understand that's what the Democrat Party has become. It has become a death cult. Take abortion, for example. That hallowed ground, as Wendy Davis said when she did her filibuster here in Texas. You know, we're standing on hallowed ground here. And then chanting, Hail Satan, as you had Christians outside the Texas Capitol where they were having the debate about whether or not they would shut down abortion clinics that would not protect women's health. I thought they were all about women's health. And all this stuff goes back to Gosnell. And remember, I talked to there's a movie out there that you ought to see if you haven't seen it yet. Because it was Kermit Gosnell, who is serving multiple life sentences for murder, who murdered full-term babies. Of course, Facebook won't let you see the affirmative, life-affirming commercial showing a young girl. They didn't even say anything about abortion. They were just saying, you know, she was a young girl. She was born at this period of time when a lot of children are aborted. She survived. They didn't think that she might survive. She did. Look at her today, the happy, healthy life she has. And they show a very grainy picture of an ultrasound. That was banned by Facebook. Can't talk about the beauty of life. They pushed back and stopped the laws in Texas that were going to protect the life of women when they go into these women's health clinics. Because one of the victims of Kermit Gosnell was a woman of color, a migrant refugee, who died having an abortion because they couldn't get the gurneys through the hallways and the doorways. And so they said, as a result of that, they said, well, let's make sure that doesn't happen in Texas. Let's protect women's health. No, can't do that. This is a sacred right. It is hallowed ground. You better not do that. And now we've got a pro-abortion professor coming out. His name is Gene Lucas. He wrote an op-ed, Altruism, a Different Focus on Abortion. His idea is that babies can be killed not only before birth, but after birth. Why can you kill a baby after birth? Well, because it's not fully conscious. It's not fully sentient, right? It doesn't have the same mental acuity that you and I do, which is kind of the rationale that Adolf Hitler had for gassing people that he believed didn't have sufficient IQ or mentally handicapped. This is what this all leads to. That's why I say it is a cult of death. And folks, by the way, Adolf Hitler called himself a socialist. He just believed that the very last stage of socialism should be the confiscating of industry, unlike the communists who said that's going to be the first thing we do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take all the private property, all the private businesses. And he says, well, you guys don't know what you're doing. You can't run it. We're going to let them keep the trains running on time, and then at the last minute, we will take the stuff. So he said, socialism first. Ultimately, yes, we're going to get to communism, but the bottom line is they're both authoritarian dictators who would kill anybody who got in their way, and they had absolutely no respect for life, as the Democrats don't either. these people who talk about being pro-choice, and they don't give you a choice on anything with your children, with your life, with your health care, with your children's health care, with their education. They don't want you to have a choice about anything. They want to dictate to you everything that you're going to do. Every policy that they have is predicated on making you dependent on them for your basic fundamental needs. Everything must be provided by them. And that is just one aspect of it. There's another way that we're being killed, and of course that is with the products that we find in our environment. Cell phones are now linked to cancer. Who knew? Got a long list of cancer studies that I'll give you in the next segment. But now they've got another one coming out here. They said the National Institute of Health has been studying the effects of cell phone radiation on rats, mice, and people since 1999. We had multiple international studies about the cancer effects of cell phones well before the Telecommunications Act of 1996 that was signed into law by Bill Clinton. They knew that it could create cancer. It is very well documented. Studies, large studies. Poland had one that involved hundreds of thousands of military personnel, done over many, many years, showing the effects of this type of radiation and how it was linked to cancer. And what they did in 1996 was they passed a law saying that you cannot object to the placement of cell phone towers and clusters of transmitters close to you or close to a school or close to children. You can't object to that on the grounds of health. That's going to be thrown out. You can object to it because it's an eyesore, because it devalues your property. But you can't object to it if you think that it presents a greater health risk. And they knew that it did. And now they're coming out and saying, oh yeah, look at this, cell phones, blah, blah, blah. Now they're going to tell you, oh, don't worry, we've come up with a different frequency, 5G. Well, they know already that 5G does it worse. And of course, everybody is going to be close to the 5G antennas. They'll be lower power, but you will be much closer to them. Yeah, it's a square of the distance is the real factor here. Stay with us.
Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government. You still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they so afraid to answer a few questions? This story does not add up.